How's it going, everybody? I'm Stella Chung, and this is the Weekly Fix, the show where we round up all the gaming and entertainment headlines you may have missed this week. Assassin's Creed Mirage has been confirmed to be releasing a week earlier than expected, plus Overwatch 2 has become one of the worst-rated games on Steam. In the entertainment world, fans aren't happy with all the changes to Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse, and superhero fatigue might ruin the Marvels. Hope you're having a great day, and let's jump right into it. If you're looking forward to the next Assassin's Creed, I have some great news. The official Assassin's Creed Twitter account posted this morning that Assassin's Creed Mirage has gone gold and is coming out a week early. On behalf of the entire team, we can't wait for you to explore 9th century Baghdad with Basim. Your journey now starts October 5th. Save the new date. Going gold, if you're unfamiliar, means the game is ready for launch. Originally, Assassin's Creed Mirage was slated to release October 12th of this year, and the shift to launching on an earlier date may be due to a few factors. One reason for the date change could be because October is pretty stacked with big game launches. Early in the month, Detective Pikachu Returns releases October 6th, Forza Motorsport follows after October 10th, Alan Wake on the 17th, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 the 20th, and Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 the 24th. And those are just some of the major titles coming out in October, so Assassin's Creed Mirage getting moved up to the beginning of the month is probably healthier for the game's launch. Mirage is Ubisoft's return to classic Assassin's Creed, focusing on stealth gameplay and combat being a last resort. The map in Mirage will be smaller, and the length of the game will also be shorter than previous games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The map size has been compared to Paris in Assassin's Creed Unity, and the campaign will only take about 20 to 23 hours to complete. Speaking of release dates, Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl may be dropping this year after all. First spotted by WCCF Tech, the official German PlayOn store has a listing for Stalker 2 Chernobyl on PC with a December 1st release date. Stalker 2 was initially supposed to be released in April 2022, but got pushed back to December 2022. Stalker has had a tumultuous path to launch, especially with the Russian invasion of Ukraine that's still ongoing. Since the developer GSC World is based in Ukraine, development was put on pause in March when the invasion originally happened, but reportedly resumed back in May. The game was then delayed to the first half of 2023, and GSC confirmed Stalker 2 would not be shown in the 2023 Xbox Games Showcase, but that they would share more information in the coming weeks. Bear in mind, the release date of December 1st could be a placeholder since it's not been officially stated, but usually games with placeholder release dates are listed as launching on December 31st. That said, this particular store has a history of leaking dates. Stalker 2 will be playable at Gamescom this year, so it's very possible that this is a real updated release date that will be announced at the event. I'm personally super excited to play this, and luckily, I'll be at Gamescom. I've been looking forward to this game since I saw its gameplay trailer, and I don't usually do horror or spooky games, but I do kind of like survival horror FPS games. I know that's really weird, but I really do hope we get this game this year. Overwatch 2's latest season, Invasion, went live yesterday and brought in a new support hero Illari, a new game mode called Flashpoint, and the controversial story missions. I have a full breakdown of all the changes and updates that came with Invasion in a separate video if you want to get the full details. But right now, let's talk about the community's response. With Invasion's launch, Overwatch 2 became available on Steam for the first time, but the launch wasn't exactly what Blizzard planned. Not even a day after it's been out on Steam, the reviews for Overwatch 2 were overwhelmingly negative. Only about 14% of the over 25,000 user reviews are actually positive. While Steam's charts say Overwatch 2 broke in the top 5 bestsellers on Steam by revenue, the reviews speak otherwise to how players really feel. Most of the criticisms focus on one thing: monetization. One Steam review from Orange sums up the general sentiment with, "Overwatch 2 has no respect for you. It's an attempt to pry open your wallet while masquerading as the game it used to be." So here's the thing, I wholeheartedly agree. Listen, I get that Overwatch 2 is a free-to-play game, right? And it needs some microtransactions to survive. But this was a huge change from its original format where you just had to pay $39.99 for the standard price point and get access to everything and have the option to roll some loot boxes with real money for cosmetic skins only. Free-to-play game models can work out really well if done right. Fortnite has done it really well as Apex Legends and Warzone. Players have access to all game modes and content except cosmetic items, which even then have chances to be earned or unlocked through completing challenges or by earning in-game currency. Overwatch 2 has done a piss-poor job of adopting this modern, free-to-play model. Blizzard has been failing to deliver on promises to players, like the fact that Overwatch 2's main draw was a huge PvE campaign that would involve new hero abilities, co-op attacks, and level progression systems for that campaign mode. The original PvE campaign mode was cut after many seasons of Blizzard promising fans it would be arriving soon and to be patient. So not only were players upset that they've been lied to, but on top of that, Blizzard also decided to paywall the reduced versions of PvE. Now, story missions, the PvE mode, have to be unlocked by paying $15. But still, $15 isn't that much money, especially compared to buying a new $70 game. That's not the point. The point is that the community is fed up with Blizzard's inability to communicate with players honestly, and that Blizzard doesn't really seem shy in presenting how little they care about the players who have stuck with them in good faith. For $15, you can get the 3 story missions for this season and permanently unlock future story missions, but having played through these levels, I can't recommend buying this right now. The missions are incredibly dry and short, and the replayability is next to none. You play through it once and you get the story, and the gameplay is pretty repetitive and unimpressive. Story missions just feel like the little PvE events we got during Overwatch 1's seasonal events. It's incredibly disappointing. If Blizzard had actually delivered on their original PvE campaign with hero progression and new ability unlocks in their specific PvE skill tree, I would say sure, $15? Let's do this. But this version now is an insult to players. At least with playing the free core game modes in Overwatch 2, you get some variety and interesting matches. I'd recommend using your $15 to get yourself a nice burrito with extra meat and chips and salsa, because then at least you're getting something meaty and worth your money. After being delayed by a whole year, Starfield's launch is practically here, just 2 short weeks away. If you pre-ordered the game, you can begin preloading it very soon, like tomorrow. Bethesda has announced the official preload times for the Xbox Series X and S versions of the game, which is tomorrow, August 17th. And for PC players, the Steam version will be available for preload August 30th. If you're a Game Pass subscriber, have no fear, as the game will be ready to play on day 1 for Xbox Game Pass, PC Game Pass, and Game Pass Ultimate subscribers. As an extra perk for members, you will get the same in-game pre-order bonuses as those who pre-ordered the standard edition of the game. So this includes the old Mars laser cutter skin, deep mining helmet, and more. Unfortunately, if you're planning on getting the new Game Pass Core subscription tier, which will be the cheapest at $9.99 US, you won't have access to Starfield. Bummer. Starfield hits Xbox and PC on September 6th after a couple of long delays. Bethesda also confirms the game has gone gold, so there's really no stopping it now. It's coming, and my PC's ready. Switching gears to another of this fall's most anticipated games, Call of Duty fans have unearthed new info on an old fan favorite game mode that'll be included in the next installment. From the sound of things, zombies will be making their way to Modern Warfare for the first time. Thank God. YouTuber Mr. Dalek JD tweeted a video seemingly confirming a zombies mode in this year's Modern Warfare 3. If you've seen the recent teaser trailer for the game, you can catch a glimpse of a secret phone number hidden in the trailer. Calling it will give you some audio clips from the game, but texting it will provide you with a few more details. Mr. Dalek JD texted the word zombies to the number and got back a link to an audio clip with the familiar Call of Duty zombies sound effect. So that's not quite official confirmation, but it definitely sounds like it's teasing the return of zombies, quite literally. The Modern Warfare sub-series of Call of Duty has never had a zombies mode. Treyarch's World at War was the first Call of Duty title to have zombies, and the studio continued the tradition throughout the Black Ops sub-series. But in a world where Call of Duty Warzone mashes together all the different franchises, I guess it makes as much sense for Modern Warfare 3 to have zombies as any other Call of Duty game. I mean, Nicki Minaj and Shredder are in Warzone. Zombie seems pretty mundane by that comparison. But that's not all that's coming to Modern Warfare 3. According to Charlie Intel, all 16 of the 2009 Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer maps will be in the new game. We're sure there will be more revealed in tomorrow's in-game Warzone event that's supposed to be the official unveiling of Modern Warfare 3. Everybody just act surprised, okay?
Microsoft has confirmed the Game Pass lineup from today, August 15th, up to the launch of Starfield on September 6th. Available today is Everspace 2. It's a fast-paced, single-player space shooter that returned a 7 out of 10 in our review. We said Everspace 2 is the looter shooter for space jockeys and wannabe pilots, packed with cool ship classes and action-driven arcade dogfights to keep up the pace. Next up is Firewatch, available on August 17th. Firewatch is a much-loved single-player first-person mystery from Campo Santo, which we gave a 9 out of 10 in our review. We said Firewatch is among the best of the walking simulators, thanks to stellar writing, art direction, and voice acting. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre hits Game Pass on August 18th. This third-person asymmetrical horror game, based on the iconic 1974 film, is a Day 1 Game Pass release from developer Sumo Digital and Friday the 13th, the game publisher Gun Interactive. It got a 6 out of 10 from us. Also Day 1 on Game Pass is the retro RPG Sea of Stars, which launches August 29th. The following week, Greece arrives on September 5th. We gave it a 6 out of 10 and said Greece's beautiful exterior hides a simple, at times confusing, platformer. And then it's the big one, Bethesda's Starfield, which launches Day 1 on Game Pass on September 6th. As already announced, early access from September 1st is available to those who fork out for the more expensive version. Game Pass subscribers can save up to 10% on the Starfield Premium Edition upgrade and play 5 days early. Meanwhile, 6 games leave Game Pass on August 31st. They are Black Desert, Commandos 3 HD Remaster, Immortality, Nuclear Throne, Surgeon Simulator 2, and Tinykin. In other Xbox news, it has announced a new strike-based program to hopefully decrease bad behavior on the platform. Players found violating Xbox's community standards will receive a strike, which will stay on their record for 6 months before it is removed. The severity of the violation determines the number of strikes and the length of the punishment, as shown in the elaborate illustration here. If a player receives 8 total strikes, their account will be suspended from using Xbox's social features like party chat and online multiplayer for 1 year. However, single-player experiences will remain unaffected and no purchased content will be stripped from suspended players. In an effort to provide transparency and educate players on what behavior is deemed inappropriate, Microsoft will show players their enforcement history, which lets them see how many current strikes they have, in addition to any active, completed, or expired suspensions issued. Xbox's new enforcement strike system is Microsoft's latest attempt to curb bad behavior on its platform. Previous efforts include a safety feature released last month that lets players clip audio and report inappropriate voice chats easily. Baldur's Gate 3 developer Larian Studios has detailed the second big post-launch update for the hit RPG. It includes fixes for nearly 300 crashes, blockers, and bugs. Hilariously, a couple of the changes fix bugs with genitalia and undergarments. Under the gameplay section of the patch notes, the first 2 fixes read like this. Penises C and D no longer clip through some Githyanki clothing, and male gnome sorcerers are no longer missing their undies. Now, Larian promised that Baldur's Gate 3 would be big-budget horny in a way AAA games have never seen, but it's probably for the best that they're patching out accidental Githyanki indecent exposure or gnome sorcerers going commando. Unless you want them to go commando, in which case you do you. These fixes are just few of the hundreds of tweaks Larian's made to the gameplay, multiplayer, UI, the engine, and cinematics. It's been a huge week for Baldur's Gate 3. It's one of the biggest Steam games ever, and it has dethroned Tears of the Kingdom as the best reviewed game of the year on Metacritic. IGN's own review is still in progress, but it seems very positive so far.
It's time to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got new details for Rick and Morty Season 7, and changes to the digital release of Across the Spider-Verse are angering some fans. See you in a bit. Welcome back. Superhero fatigue is the buzzword being thrown around right now, but will the Marvels be any different? But first, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is now on digital platforms with some very subtle but very important changes. Let's find out some more. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is now available to buy or rent on digital, but fans have noticed it's not quite the version shown in theaters, and a handful of lines of dialogue have been cut for its digital home release. Social media platform formerly known as Twitter, user @ChrisAG writes, has a thread detailing individual changes which is currently at 21 posts and counting. The changes noted range from the addition or removal of text boxes on screen, slightly different shading and outlines on characters, changes to music, and most notably, different dialogue. Without getting too spoilery for anyone who hasn't seen it, the 2 changes that have the most people annoyed are 2 lines of dialogue that were cut. Previously, one major scene in the film had Miles capping off a pivotal line with "Sorry man, I'm going home," which has since been completely cut out. There's a case to be made that cutting this line gives the overall statement more dramatic punch, but on the other hand, the almost casual "Sorry man, I'm going home" emphasizes Miles' humanity over her superheroism. Meanwhile, in a scene where Gwen is rushing to Miles' rescue, she previously uttered a few lines implying how worried about him she was. but those lines have been cut from the digital version for whatever reason. When Across the Spider-Verse was in theaters, slightly different cuts were shown. There were some issues with the audio mix in the first one sent to theaters, and when fixed versions were sent out, sharp-eyed viewers spotted some very subtle changes made to other scenes. Considering this is a movie about an infinite number of alternate realities, this could be seen as some sort of meta-commentary by the animators, but it seems a lot like fans feel more like they're being gaslit. There's no word from the Sony Pictures Animation on the reason for these changes or if the eventual Blu-ray release will feature the original theatrical cut, but it's an interesting example of how a final cut isn't always final in the age of digital media. Speaking of inconsistent superhero statements, it sounds like Wonder Woman 3's place in the new DCU is not as certain as its star seems to think. Previously, in an interview with comicbook.com, Gal Gadot stated that she loved playing Wonder Woman and that, from what I heard from James and from Peter, is that we're going to develop a Wonder Woman 3 together. According to Variety, inside sources claim James Gunn and Peter Safran do not have any plans currently to develop a Wonder Woman project beyond the live-action series Paradise Lost, which will take place in the superheroine's birthplace, Themyscira. So basically, until we wrap a magic lasso around all parties involved and get some honest answers, the chance of whether or not we'll see a Wonder Woman 3 anytime soon are about as good as whether or not you can see Wonder Woman's jet. You know, the one that's invisible most of the time. It's a funny joke.
We've got our first teaser trailer for the upcoming Rick and Morty Season 7. Now, there's no release date just yet, but expect to see the multiverse traveling duo return sometime in the fall. Now, it's great to see them back in action, but I think most fans are more interested in hearing what Rick and Morty will sound like without co-creator Justin Roiland in the voiceover booth. Now, Roiland voiced many characters from the animated series, including the titular heroes. Now, Roiland was let go by Adult Swim earlier this year after domestic abuse charges were levied against him. Now, he's since been cleared of all charges and released this statement on Twitter following the dismissal of the domestic abuse charges. Now, in it, he mentions how he's determined to move forward and focus on restoring his good name and working on his creative projects. Unfortunately for him and for some fans, none of those projects will be Rick and Morty or Solar Opposites related, as both Adult Swim and Hulu have severed ties with the creator and likely have absolutely no plans of bringing him back on board either projects despite recent developments. As you might know, actor Dan Stevens has replaced Roiland as the voice of Corvo in Season 4 of Solar Opposites. And no, he sounds absolutely nothing like Roiland's original take on the character.
Who picked the voice-fixing ray?
I'm sorry, big guy, my bad. We'll get this fixed in a jiffy.
I told you not to throw metal around here. We're going to be late to work. Stop buggering about.
Hey, does Corvo sound a little off?
This thing must not be calibrated. Let me try again.
No!
No, this is working for me.
All right, chop chop, let's get a move on. I hate being late. It makes me feel hot and weird.
You make me feel hot and weird.
What was that?
Nothing. Coming, sweetie.
Wait, is his voice just gonna be like that from now on?
Yeah, but it sounds pretty much the same to me. Nobody's gonna notice.
Honestly, that's a really clever way to explain away the recasting of the character. Now, obviously, there's absolutely no way the producers behind Rick and Morty would do the very same thing, even though it makes sense for Rick to have created a voice-fixing ray gun as well. But instead of ripping off that idea, it seems the producers behind Rick and Morty might be going with sound-alikes for the titular characters. At this year's Comic-Con, producer Steve Levy gave fans an update on where the team's at with the recasting of the characters voiced by Justin Roiland. Quote, "We are closing in on the end of our process of the recast. It's going to be great. I'm thoroughly impressed. That's the thing I don't want to be overshadowed." And he also confirmed that they'll be using sound-alikes, but the characters will remain the same characters. Now, fortunately for the producers of the series, there's a ton of folks online who can pull off very convincing Rick and Morty impressions, so there's probably a large pool of online influencers for them to choose from. Now, my money's on them using my friend and OG YouTuber Brock Baker.
Hey, you're the casting director for Rick and Morty, right? Did you get a chance to listen to those thousands of auditions yet? You know, to replace Justin Roiland?
Oh, Morty, we gotta go back to the future, Morty. We gotta go back to the future 2, Morty. We gotta go back to the future 3, Morty. Oh, jeez, Rick! Oh, jeez! Morty! Oh, jeez! And I'm Rick. I'll drink alcohol. Hey, I can do a really good Rick and Morty.
Now that was low-key his way of auditioning for the role, and honestly, I bet you it actually worked. I mean, that's exactly what happened to my man Arif Zahir, aka Azariz, who secured the role of Cleveland Brown. Anyways, really hope we'll find out soon who will be stepping into the roles of the two characters. Whomever it is will definitely have big shoes to fill and a lot to prove to Rick and Morty fans. And even if they nail the voices, it'll be interesting to see if they have Roiland's talent for improvisation. I'm curious to know your thoughts on all of this. Comment down below and let's discuss. Now in other animation news, we got our first look at Netflix's upcoming Scott Pilgrim anime series. Now while we didn't hear much from the characters, we were treated to a whole lot of eye candy with the visuals very reminiscent of the manga series. And what's so cool about it is that the entire creative crew seems to be returning for the project. We got creator of Scott Pilgrim, Brian Lee O'Malley, director Edgar Wright, and several cast members from the live action adaptation will be returning to bring this 2D animation to life. Now, some of the returning cast include Aubrey Plaza, Brie Larson, Anna Kendrick, and of course, Michael Cera as the titular hero. Now, Cyan Saru will be working on the animation, which you may know from their work animating Devilman Crybaby or those cool promotional episodes for OKKO Let's Be Heroes. Now, the anime series kicks off November 17th. Now, we've gone over this numerous times in the past, debated it on IGN's Super Debatable series, as well as written countless articles on the subject matter. Is superhero fatigue a real thing? Well, the answer is yes, it is, but you don't need to take it from me. Nia DaCosta, the director for the upcoming Marvels movie, believes it exists as well. But I should caveat this with the but, get this, she doesn't think superhero fatigue applies to her upcoming MCU movie. Go figure. Yeah, you know, superhero fatigue exists, but not when we're talking about something I'm associated with. No, of course not. Now here's what she had to say while speaking with Total Film. Quote, I think superhero fatigue absolutely exists. The biggest difference from the other MCU movies to date is that it's really wacky and silly. The worlds we go to in this movie are worlds unlike others you've seen in the MCU. Bright worlds that you haven't seen before. Yeah, so the Marvels, according to the director, will be wacky and silly with vibrant and bright worlds we've never seen in the MCU before, apparently. Yeah, that to me doesn't really sell me on the Marvels being a different experience to any of the other MCU movies we've seen in the past. Like, just to name a few, we've gotten 2 wacky and silly Thor movies, plus a whole Guardians trilogy that took us to quite a few vivid and bright worlds. And to be very honest with you, there's absolutely nothing about the Marvels movie that I personally find appealing enough to pay to see it in theaters. Now, I say this often, if it weren't my job to watch these films to generate content around them, I'd pass on this one. Now, the trailer does admittedly look like a fun romp, but not necessarily something I'd be compelled to see within the first few weeks or months of its release as a casual consumer. Now, I think one of the major contributing factors to superhero fatigue is the fact that these studios are just putting out films based around characters that no one ever asked to see helming their very own projects. Like, there's no large online community clamoring to see a Blue Beetle live-action movie. Like, no one asked for a Batgirl film, and even though it does exist, we'll fortunately never see it. Now, while I like Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, and Monica Rambeau, there's never been a single moment in my comic book reading life that I said to myself, you know what I'd like to see? These 3 characters starring in their very own movie, together. No, I've never said it. Now, Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel have carried their own comic book series, with the latter being killed off in Amazing Spider-Man issue number 26. And now there's plans to have the actor who plays Miss Marvel, Iman Vellani, pen a new Miss Marvel comic series. And speaking with Entertainment Weekly on the project, she told them, quote, I've never written anything before in my entire life, but I have read many comics, so I just wrote what I would want to read. I was given a very professional tool to write what is essentially my own fan fiction. Wow, now you've never written anything before. Yeah, that gives me all the confidence in the world. I love reading fan fiction from someone that's never written a single story in their entire life. Until now. Yeah. Now, anyway, the team up in the Marvels just feels like a project cobbled together in a boardroom rather than a story that needed to be told. Like, some might speculate there's an agenda behind this whole thing, but I won't go too far down that particular rabbit hole on this one. Admittedly, I'm probably not the target demographic for this movie, but it still feels like a far cry from the kind of event that new Marvel movies used to be. Like, while I'd never root for the downfall of any project, I have a feeling that the Marvels movie won't be a box office hit for Marvel Studios. Ant-Man 3 grossed over $400 million worldwide and yet still underperformed at the box office for a Marvel film. Like, it made slightly more than its $200 million budget, but didn't break even during its theatrical run. I kind of feel the Marvels movie might be in the same boat. Now, earlier in August, the Disney Plus Miss Marvel series was the first original MCU series to air in its entirety on network television. Now, this was likely to subtly promote the upcoming movie starring the character, as not a lot of casual fans will be familiar with Miss Marvel. I'm really not sure about this particular film, but I definitely want to know what y'all think. Like, is it really just superhero fatigue or just bad movie making and ideas? Like, do you think some people just claim superhero fatigue as a means to compensate for just shoveling bad movies and ideas to us fans while slapping a cape on it? Like, superhero fatigue or just bad movie fatigue? Sound off down below.
I'm Stella Chung, and that was your weekly fix. We'll be back here next Saturday with more of the biggest gaming and entertainment news of the week. See you then.